treatment that you're receiving from the hospital in the U.S. is actually appropriate for your medical situation. What you wouldn't want to have happen is you wouldn't want to be advised by the U.S. hospital that you need surgery if indeed you didn't need surgery. And you might say, oh, well, that wouldn't happen, but I actually have heard of that. I actually had a client who actually at the time he was living in Calgary and I was living in Calgary, and he had I guess chest pain or whatever, and he was admitted to hospital in the U.S. The hospital in the U.S. was telling him that he absolutely needed to have some type of heart surgery. I don't know if it was an angioplasty or a bypass surgery that they were wanting him to have, but I mean, either one of those is very, can be very serious invasive surgery. And the insurance company kind of insisted that he was stable enough they wanted to send him back to Canada for treatment. And at first he was a little bit resistant. He said, well, if I need this treatment and they're telling me I need this treatment, shouldn't I just get the treatment? But in this case, this story that I'm referring to, the insured kind of didn't want to go, but said, okay, the insurance company was insisting. And so he said, okay, I'm going to go. And when he got back to Calgary and saw his actual doctor, his family doctor, the doctor said, you don't need heart surgery. And he never did have heart surgery. So, he could have gone under the knife and had surgery recommended by this hospital in the U.S. and wouldn't have needed it. So you really do want to have that second opinion. And assistance companies normally have doctors and nurses on staff that will make sure that the treatment that you're being advised to have is going to be the most suitable for you. So medical case management. And then, of course, if you do need to be emergency evacuated back to Canada for whatever reason, you want to have an insurance company that will coordinate your flights for you. You don't want to have to be dealing with that if you are dealing with, a very serious medical situation for your spouse or yourself. Okay, a couple more things here. So we recommend that you know the difference between a broker and an agent. So a broker is independent and impartial. So really, they're working for you. And an agent is normally an employee of the insurance company. So it's not necessarily an employee, but maybe they're not independent. Maybe they're not impartial. Maybe they only have one product to sell. So you're not going to get the best product for you. You're going to get the only product that they have for you. So you really want to be going someplace where you have some options. And then, of course, there's a list of policy exclusions in your policy, and an exclusion is what would not be covered in the event of a claim. And there's always exclusions in policies. So some of the exclusions that they have in policies is, let's see here, you could be going to an area of the world where the Canadian government has advised against travel for Canadians, and if you went anyways, then you're not covered for anything related to that. And in some cases, your travel insurance wouldn't cover you at all because they don't want you to go on that trip at all. Another exclusion is if you seek treatment that's not pre-approved by the insurance company, that could be excluded. So that would be another example of an exclusion. There's even exclusions for being over 0.08. So if you have a claim, have an emergency or some kind of accident or injury and you're over 0.08, that might not be covered under the policy. So that type of thing. And then, of course, you need to know what you must do in the event of an emergency, because if you don't know that in advance and you do have an emergency, it's a little bit late to learn that at the time of an emergency. So very important that you know that ahead of time. And also, just to keep in mind that your insurance broker is not aware of any claims that you might make. Due to the privacy laws in Canada, a broker or any type of a salesperson is not privy to that information. And so you might have a claim and you might have problems with that claim, but if you don't actually call your broker, they have no idea that you're having trouble. So there is a bit of a disconnect, and that's due to the privacy laws in Canada. The powers that be feel that it's not required information, that the seller of your insurance knows that you're having a claim, and so that information is not shared by the insurance company. So you should always call your broker if you should have an emergency and you're having trouble with that claim. Okay, so very important here, some questions about what to ask before you buy. So you're in the market for travel insurance, and of course it's getting to be that time where people are going to start thinking about travel insurance. I know for us, we have our early bird sale on. It's on right now, and it's going to be you know, cheaper rates if you purchase before the end of summer. So people will be starting to think about that. So important things to ask before you buy: are you a licensed insurance broker? Again, being licensed doesn't necessarily guarantee that you know what you're doing, but there's more of a chance that the person that is licensed knows what they're doing. How long has your organization worked with this insurance company? So if you're purchasing insurance, you know, it's important to know that if the seller of your insurance is recommending this company, you know, how long have they worked with them? Do they really know what they're recommending or not? How do you find dealing with this insurance company? So if you're asking your broker this question and they don't find it easy to deal with that insurance company, do you think that you as a individual person will find it easy to deal with that insurance company? So again, another important question. How much will I save by buying during the early bird? So the early bird sale, like I said, is starting now. Sometimes there's not a lot of difference, so there's no real good reason to shell out your money well in advance of your trip if there's not a lot of potential for savings. It's a very important question that you can ask. What are the rules with regards to emergency trips home? So in other words, let's say you should, heaven forbid, have a funeral of a family or a friend that you need to rush home for, you know, while you're on your trip. How does that affect your insurance? Can you just go home and attend the funeral and go back without that affecting your insurance, or is that going to be a problem? So you really want to ask that question before it happens as well, because afterwards it might be a little too late. Okay, and the last one here: would I get a better rate by combining an annual plan and a top-up? So now I'm assuming here with this one that you're traveling for a while. You know, so maybe you're taking a long trip, you know, 35, 40, 60, 90 days, 120 days of travel into or outside of Canada rather. Sometimes it is worth your while to combine an annual plan and a top-up. So you want to ask that question. Okay, would I get a refund if I have to cancel my trip due to a reason other than medical? I mentioned that earlier. Very important question. What is the pre-existing medical condition clause that applies to this policy? So again, as I mentioned earlier, every policy has a clause that lets the consumer know how their existing medical conditions are treated by the policy, whether or not they're covered, in what situation would they be covered or not covered, all of that. And then, of course, what is the deductible on this policy? So you don't want to buy a policy where you're not privy to what that information is, because, of course, a deductible is what you are responsible for. So if you have a claim and the deductible is $250, then you're responsible for $250 of that to claim. So $250 might not break the bank, but if it's a large deductible, I've seen policies that have deductible $5,000, $10,000, even $50,000 for some So you really want to make sure that you know what the deductible is.